So in this video, I'm going to tell you what they do not tell you about living on the Palm in Dubai, the most sought after place to live in the UAE. So I've recently just moved from Dubai Marina, a very nice building called Marina Gate, to the Palm, and several things living here have completely shocked me and blown my perspective for multiple different reasons, which I'm going to discuss in today's video. If you also like the backdrop, drop a like on the video before we begin. First thing, I was concerned living on the Palm in Dubai, and people had warned me about this, that I would be very isolated and feel very alone and kind of distant from everyone else. The reality is it couldn't actually be further from the truth. I can drive from my front door to be in Nikil Mall within 3 minutes. If I want to go to a gym, I could go to Fitness First Gym and be there within 6 minutes. If I want to go to gyms in Al Quoz, I want to go to Banoush Gym, Warehouse, it's actually quicker than being in Dubai Marina because the traffic is so bad and there is no traffic lights that's going to stop me in the way. And that's why the location of actually the Palm is kind of very central in Dubai, and it's very easy to kind of get pretty much anywhere you want. And traffic isn't really an issue. And they actually manage it very well from a traffic load perspective. Now, there is one big downside to living here, which I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. Second big benefit of living here that most people do not realize. And this is actually something people have commented and replied to my Instagram stories on. I have an office that's up. I technically have 2 offices in my house now because it's too big. And why not? I have one which is like the back cave that I lock myself in that has no windows and just massive computer screen and a red light therapy unit for when I have to do a lot of work. And another one which is more of a creative one, which we use as a filming studio. Now, if I'm in the creative one, I have the door open a lot of time, and it has the most beautiful thing: the sound of running water and the sound of birds. People say in Dubai there is no nature. And if you live in certain areas of Dubai, there is no nature. But if you live in the right places, there is tons. And I'll give you some examples. There are green parakeets that fly around all the time. There's like herons, there's loads of different birds, almost kind of too many, which can sometimes be even annoying when we're trying to film some of these videos. Secondly, in the sea here, which at the moment actually isn't so great, and we can talk about some of that, it's too hot right now, but there is a lot of wildlife in the sea. So there we've seen stingrays, there is loads of fish, there's tons of crabs, and there is one thing I did not realize, which is actually a problem. There is tons and tons and tons of massive jellyfish, like massive. And you see them washing up on the beach kind of every day. I always have a paddleboard, and it's like the fear of God staying on the thing when you see a kind of giant jellyfish that looks like it's going to eat you alive. So that would be one of the downsides from a nature perspective, but there is a lot of nature here. There's also a gang of kind of street cats further up as well, which is kind of cool. Well, cool if you like cats. But this is where people also have a massive misconception to why there is no nature. Now, I'm currently on the Palm. We're kind of a mile out at sea, literally, which is reclaimed land, which if you even think about from a physical perspective and a logistics perspective is completely insane. They kind of built this thing, which kind of sums Dubai up. And I think that's one of the things that breaks a lot of limiting beliefs in terms of what can be achieved. Because every day I wake up, I can see you've got the Atlantis there, the Royal Atlantis on the side, and it just reminds you kind of what's possible. And at night they have cool light shows and things like that, which makes the whole experience living here pretty cool. Is a general outlook and a backdrop. But for me, one of the big things I find is just being by water generally gives you a lot of calm and peace and kind of gives you energy, which is why I've always liked being by the sea. Now, if you look at the streets and the fronts that you have on the Palm, one thing will kind of shock you is the price of the houses. Like the cheapest houses are kind of $10 million. And then secondly, is the amount of houses that are actually kind of empty. So probably 25-30% of the houses currently have construction on them pretty much continuously. That can get a little bit tedious and a little bit annoying. The other houses are empty. There's like one house in my front which is kind of like completely abandoned, that's right at the end, which I would guess is worth $20 million, which is wild. It just sits there empty. And this kind of reaffirms you the amount of wealth that some people have. They can just park money in kind of these houses. The other thing I say is I have the pleasure of going for a walk every morning on the beach, and I walk down the street on the way back, and you see the type of cars people drive. Like, it is insane. There's one guy on my street who has like 7 supercars. One of them is kind of annoying. It's a Lamborghini Aventador that's very loud when he comes past my house every day. And the reality is you realize that we live in a world without a lack of resources. We live in a world with a lack of resourcefulness. And this one of the most powerful things you can have is the law of exposure. Once you are exposed to success, once you're exposed to wealth, it completely melts your paradigm in terms of what's possible. To give a great example of that, I actually recently brought a client of mine, Max Turner, to my house to do an in-person kind of business training session. And he literally said to him, it was just a life-changing experience coming here to kind of see what this looks like. Because if you come from a very small area in the UK like I do, this was all a pipe dream a few years ago. I left my job the 25th of February 2019, and we're now filming this in July 2025. So life can change very, very fast, but a lot of that can come from being exposed to the right things and also exposed to the right people, which are the things that are going to kind of move you forwards. Now, if I was to talk about probably the biggest downside of experience of living here on the Palm so far, which isn't something I understood at the beginning, is the issues with getting the amount of security you have on the Palm. It's very difficult to get deliveries through. It's very difficult to get people through. The day I was moving into the house, security wouldn't even actually let my own removals people in. You have to get specific types of permits, and the whole thing is kind of very messy and difficult to deal with, which is unusual for Dubai to have so many problems. And I think that's an example in terms of where they probably go overboard on some things, and it can cause more friction than is needed. But there is a beautiful thing. I was in Las Vegas for 6 weeks at the start of the year, stayed in this great house, very, very nice. And you sometimes hear noises at night and you're worried someone's going to broken in, someone's got a gun. It's the US, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. But in Dubai, you don't worry about anything. You can sleep peacefully, no, there's not problems, because security is the most important thing you can have. And Dubai is the safest place in the world. And the Palm is probably one of the safest places in Dubai. And I think that's one of the things you are paying for here is a premium for the security side of things. But I also think the thing you're paying for is peace. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and it allows you to focus on what you need to do. And I think too many people get distracted by being in very busy locations, by being disrupted with their day-to-day. Now, something to think about is all these houses I mentioned earlier, $10 million plus. So probably the person who owns them is probably worth knowing or has some connections. And you see some wild stuff up and down here. And I think seen one guy who's a pro footballer, some other guy's a boxer. One person can change your life. And if you put yourself in the right environment, you can then get the right connection to kind of move forward. And that's where two things in life will solve problems for you. One is money, one is people. And essentially living in the right areas gives you access to the right people. And I think that's where a lot of people also understand that. It's like why people go to like expensive golf clubs. It's not necessarily because of the golf course, it's the people who are at the golf course. It's almost like a barrier to entry, which I think is also something to kind of consider. Now, if I'm radically transparent, the entire reason why I moved here is I wanted to have a life that's like Grand Theft Auto and kind of look like a movie, and you can do what I want. I wanted to live by the beach, I wanted to have the flashy car, I wanted to do all the cool shit. And that for me was the reason that really pushed me to kind of get this house and move from a 3-bedroom apartment in the marina, which is like 1,800 square feet, to an 8,000 square foot house on the beach with a pool with all this cool shit. Because the reality is you only have one life and you need to go full send and actually take the actions that are going to get you the outcomes you want. So for me, something I always aspired for, was actually on the vision board on my phone, has come true. Same thing happened last year when I wanted to buy a supercar. I had a vision on my phone on the vision board of a Ferrari. I then bought the car. And for me, it's a signal to yourself that you can then get the things you want in life when you actually plan what you want, and then you take the consistent action steps every single day. Now, some people watching this video may hate this and think I'm an absolute twat because I'm posting this video and talking about living on the Palm. The reality is that's cool for you, but the world is a mirror, not a window. That is a reflection of your own insecurities back at you, whereas some other people will look at this video and be incredibly inspired by like, yes, I want to live on the beach on the Palm. I want to have a pool. I want to have a car. I want to have all this stuff. And if you do want to have that, you can go and get it and you can go and chase it. And I would be interested to know in the comments, are you someone who wants to go for these things in life? And are you playing to win or playing not to lose? And if you're playing to win, drop a playing to win in the comments. If you took value from the video, smash like, subscribe, check out this video and see more content coming soon.